Hello, this is Mari Lane on the Buying Space channel. I'm reading in Psalms from the Bible, from the Old Testament. Psalms 95. Come, let us sing for joy to the Lord. Let us shout aloud to the rock of salvation. Let us come before him with thanksgiving and extol him with music and song. For the Lord is the great God, the great King above all gods. In his hand are the depths of the earth, and the mountain peaks belong to him. The sea is his. He made it, and his hands formed the dry land. Come, let us bow down and worship. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker, for he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture, the flock under his care. Today, if only you would hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as you did at Meribah, as you did the day at Massah in the wilderness, where your ancestors tested me. They tried me, though they had seen what I did. For 40 years I was angry with that generation. I said, they are a people whose hearts go astray, and they have not known my ways. So I declared an oath in my anger. They shall never enter my rest. Right now, I'm reading Exodus in the Torah. And at the end of Exodus, Moses, after all he went through his entire life and being the lawgiver, was not allowed to enter the promised land. And his generation was not. 40 years they roamed in the desert and lived there and struggled and moved from here to there. I feel a bit like Moses. Although I'm going to go to the promised land someday, I'm going to go to heaven when I pass. But for 40 years of my life, I was an atheist. I wandered the desert. And I still studied theology and archaeology when I was an atheist. I argued against other atheists, not for Christianity, but atheists sometimes say things that are not out of knowledge, even though they like to be a logical and intellectual group. They're not always right about their facts. And even when I didn't believe in God, even when I was out in the wilderness, I still knew that some of the things the atheists were saying were wrong. There's different types of atheists. And I was the type of atheist that I was entrenched in teaching the Bible and being in church as a Christian. And I started reading Aristotle, and there's nothing wrong with reading Aristotle. I was reading the Biblical Archaeological Review at age 12 when I was studying archaeology, and I came to a logical conclusion that God didn't exist by the age of 15. And there was some rebellion wrapped in that. But I was brought up in church. I was taught the Bible. Yet I became an atheist. A lot of the atheists today, they don't know anything about the Bible. They might be first, second, or third generation atheists. I'm old enough to have grandchildren, that if I was still an atheist, I would be teaching them about logic and reason and what's wrong with Christianity if I was still an atheist. But thank God I came back to my faith. But there are people of my generation that have grandchildren now that are atheists, and their children and their grandchildren have no training, have not read the Bible in a lot of cases, and they are just completely secular in their lifestyle and thinking. And they don't have any idea. But even as an atheist, because I had been brought up in church, it's absolutely true. Teach a child when they're young what they need to know, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. So what are you teaching your children? And don't be afraid to say to an atheist something that you've thought of that might help them, bring them to God. But also be careful in how you do that too. You don't assume that an atheist is someone that is rejecting God. Atheists don't believe in God at all, so they're not rejecting God. So you have to think about things from their perspective to talk to them. So if you have loved ones that were like, I was, wandering around in the wilderness, lost, not headed to the promised land, do talk to them. Now, don't talk to them to the point where they don't want to have a relationship with you. You have to do it in a loving, caring manner, and you can't do it out of arrogance. You can't say, I'm right, you're wrong. You have to approach it in different ways. Maybe I'll talk a little bit more about that. People have asked me many times why I came back to God, and it's not just one simple thing, and maybe I'll talk about that more in the future. You all have a wonderful and blessed day.